birth control has changed the landscape of dating, love, sex, marriage for both men and women because what it does is it gives people an option. You too, man, take care. It gives people an option of how to live their sex life. And if you go back hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago, you had to be careful because sex is just what it is. You can get a girl pregnant if you have sex and it's that time of the month and it just happens. There's no condoms, there's no birth control pills, there's no contraceptives. And so life is completely different. It was very off biology. So when a woman has her period, she's able to have a kid now. So in modern society, that we have laws in place and we've dictated 18 as the law of consent, and we have colleges, and we're structuring it in a way we're telling people grow up, go to high school, go to college, get your degree, get your career, work up, and then worry about family, then worry about kids. People are on this track that's a little bit different than their biological track. And so this has created a lot of things with feminism and with certain aspects of society where a woman now, she can just take birth control pills and she can go through college, maybe party, have a good time, have different options of men, and then get older and then now look for the husband, now look for the provider. But off of biology, it makes more sense for a guy to go with the girl that's late teens, early 20s, than to just take the girl on the end of the fertility decline just because he's the same age as her. So it creates a lot of these rifts in relationships because biology is just not really taught. Biology is just not something that we value as important. We value go to high school, go to college, get your degree, get your education, work up, start at the bottom of a company and work your way to the top, and then you have the white picket fence house. But I mean, we don't take into account the economy. What if a company just lays somebody off because they're making budget cuts? There's certain things that happen that affect the finances and circumstance of people. So when you add birth control into society, both the man and the woman now have the choice to use sex a little bit more recreationally, a little bit more for fun. You can have a bunch of sex and not have to worry about a kid, but because of that, people have such freedom with it, it causes people to wait longer and to hold out longer, and not only that, but change their whole mentality on sex. Whereas it's more something to be cautious of, and it's a little more important. It's a little bit more sacred when you don't have any birth control. When it's just like the raw biology, it's a little bit more important. It's a little bit more intense. It means a lot more. Now when you can just put on a condom, or a girl can take a birth control pill or other forms of contraception, it's just kind of like a thing to have fun now. It's recreation because we have the technology and the science to do it. But because we have all this freedom and we have all this choice, it affects different things. It affects how men and women interact with each other. It affects their perception of their timeline in life. It affects the society in terms of how we're structuring family units and how we're working together as people to create a society. A man, he could put on a condom, and condoms aren't 100% effective, but for the most part, he just put on a condom and have a bunch of sex and doesn't have to worry about it because it's a contraceptive that gives him the ability to use sex as more recreation. Whereas the woman could take birth control pills. I mean, there's other forms of contraception too, but those are two of the main ones. But both sexes have the ability to make that choice. And so when it becomes more recreation and less biology, it gives people this this independence that they didn't have before. Not only just the actual independence, but also the illusion of independence. Because just because you can have the choice to use it recreationally doesn't mean that there aren't other consequences. You're still going to age. You're still on a certain biological track. Certain things line up in certain times. So the invention of birth control has definitely affected the intersexual dynamics between men and women. It'll be interesting to see how it goes forward in life, going into the future, and as more information comes out about it, we'll see how this plays out, because you start to see decline of marriages. You start to see people go MGTOW, and understand that you might be a man raising another man's kid, because you don't know for sure if that's your kid. The woman knows for sure. She's holding the kid, so she knows it's hers. The man doesn't know for sure. And with this birth control and contraceptives and condoms and all of those, she can go with whoever she wants as many times as she wants, because she has the choice. She has the independence to do that. And so when her choices have increased, the risk of those things goes up even more. So even back in the day, hundreds and thousands of years ago, you're not even for sure if that's your kid. But now you can just take a birth control pill or put on a condom. People are having even more recreational sex, so it heightens that. Like, you don't really know who that person's been with. You don't really know if that's really yours. There are ways to know. I mean, you can do a DNA test, or if you're actually in a relationship where you're with each other constantly and you've been only with each other out of sight of anybody else, then that's one thing. Like, say the guy owns a business and he makes residual income, and so him and his long-term girlfriend, they're just together 24/7 over the course of a year. I mean, if she hasn't left his sight in the course of a year and then they have a kid, it's safe to say that that's his. But take the average American. Guy goes to work. How do you know the pool guy's not coming over? How do you know that girls' night out is just a trip to the bar? How do you know what girls' trip to Cabo or Vegas is? How do you know that when you leave the house to go get groceries that she isn't going to someone else's house? You know what I mean? If you're just on the grind, on the rat race, the hamster wheel, and you're just constantly going through life like that, you're not with each other 24/7. You don't really know. You don't really know who the other person is dealing with. The only way you know for sure is if they haven't left your sight 24/7, and it's within a time span where you can know that that's your kid. And so when you add contraceptives to the mix, it's just like, okay, I can choose to take my birth control. I can not choose to take it. I can just tell the guy that I'm taking it, or I don't have to tell him that I'm taking it, or whatever. Or a certain method could be ineffective. I mean, it just there's a lot going on with it. So the addition of it into society has really it's given people not only independence but also the illusion of independence. For what? Oh yeah, go use that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. And yeah, so it's I got a comment about this on a previous video where someone mentioned that. I thought it was a really good point of how birth control has really affected the whole intersexual dynamics between men and women, and it's caused a lot more men to even go MGTOW because no one wants to get burned that badly. No one wants to raise another man's child to the point where they spend years raising the child and you find out later that's not even yours. I mean, that's some intense shit right there. And it happens a lot because biologically the man can get many women pregnant. The woman is only getting pregnant once. She knows for sure that it's hers. He doesn't know for sure that that's his. And so now with this college culture and hookup culture and feminism, and she can do whatever she wants, and he can do whatever he wants, and it's just free reign, and you can have marriages that you can leave freely with no consequences, and you can trade up to the next person, a better deal. I mean, there's so much going on, and people have so much choice and so much independence that it makes everything called into question. I mean, even back in the day, hundreds of thousands of years ago, it's still a question. I mean, you don't know for sure, like, if that kid is yours. With no birth control at all in society, every time you go to have sex, it heightens the importance of it because the contraceptives aren't there. So it takes out a huge facet that's in our current society. In our current society, there's a lot more involved here where you can protect yourself and you can just have multiple sex partners without worrying about consequences of kids and repercussions. But if there's no birth control, if there's no contraceptives in society, then all of a sudden, every time you go to have sex, that's of higher importance. It's a bigger risk. There's more consequence to it. There's more thought involved with who you're actually being intimate with. Now, a lot of people just don't even care. They just, go to parties, drink, hook up. It's like, oh, whatever, I used a condom or whatever. She's on birth control, or just, people just have that, like, lazy attitude with it. And so because of that, it's changed the way that men and women interact with each other. Like I was saying with the woman who uses birth control, and she just spends multiple years doing that. Biologically, she was ready to have a kid after her period. So if she goes through her life just on birth control pills, and then suddenly in her like mid-30s, she's like, well, okay, now I want a kid, and then she stops taking birth control, and she's looking for like the ideal guy that's going to take care of her. Biologically, from a man's perspective, it's like, no, he doesn't want the girl that's just like been doing whatever, and then at 35 he just comes in to save her or to take care of her. It's like, would she have agreed to that when they were 18 and they could have worked up together, right? They could have like built something together. Like he's, you know, so it's like he's not trying to like come in at the end of the decline. And so there's just a lot going on with that. And you got to really take into account how much birth control is affecting the society.